Welcome, everybody, to the CALLOUS Invitational 7 Grand Finals. In the first set of the Grand Finals, and what could be the only set of the Grand Finals, what could be the final ever CALLOUS Invitational or CALLOUS Money Tour as a whole set. This could be the very, very end of the line, and I am pumped to see how this plays out. It's a best of 5, two really cool stories here. Baddummy was in play-ins, and he is in the winner's bracket right now, needing to be defeated twice in two different best of 5s in order to not win this tournament. Play-ins to money at all is incredible. Play-ins to grand finals, super incredible. Play-ins to undefeated champion of the tournament is something that if I ran 20 CALLOUS Invitationals, would never ever happen again. It's an incredible story. He's on the run of a lifetime, and this would be his chance to, he's already made history, but make even more history, make immortalized history with something, like I said, that will never be duplicated. On the other side of the coin, SEA, wild and crazy. Someone pointed this out in my YouTube comments. Thank you, Slayer Metallica, whoever you are, for bringing this statistic to my attention. But up to this point in the tournament, C has brought 31 different kinds of pokes, which in and of itself is crazy. Of those 31, 13 of those are non-OU pokes, and of those 13, games have been won with 10 out of those 13 non-OU pokes. So good luck trying to scout against C. Can bring absolutely anything, and basically has. We saw Shed Ninja from them. We've seen Slaking from them. All sorts of funky monkey stuff. Very, very hard to try to prep for C, and I think Baddummy is not even going to try to prep for C. I think he's just going to stick to his comfort and try to mix teams up as he goes and see what happens. So, even though it's grand finals, they are really... Maybe it's just the adrenaline pumping and the blood from, oh my god, the game started, let's go, I'm going to get it. But they haven't paused for timer at all. They're going at a blistering pace, so I guess instead of telling you the stakes and all that, I got to get back to the game. So they both have meta, they both had Skarm, and both had meta, I guess. There was a trade with a boom, and there's 1 layer versus 0 of spikes favoring C. That being said, that trade, especially with the crit, was good for Baddummy, and we'll see if C has an answer for Suicune. Skarmory, not traditionally the world's greatest answer to Suicune. And I'm kind of surprised with the meta switch there, but yeah, played around Toxic. That was the right call, as it turns out. So Baddummy, on a turn where many people would have just clicked CM or Surf, showing why he's in the grand finals. He mashes knowing he's about to be phased out. And unfortunately for him, the mash misses, but it's not the end of the world. And finally, we have just a moment of pause, but still no timer being used. Like I said, this is a best of 5. If it does go to a second set, which will only happen if C wins this set, because if Baddummy wins, the tournament's over and he's the champ. But if it does go to a second set, that set will not be played today, and we'll come back whenever it is, later next week, next weekend, whatever it ends up being. That critical hit of HP Fire matters. Mash does connect there for a nice healthy 50%, but like I said, that crit absolutely relevant because it would have left the Mence where it could survive another HP Fire and then get another mash off or a boom or whatever it may be. As it stands, it'll absolutely die to an attack. C tries to change it up here, goes for Giga Drain, thinking maybe Claydol or something to that effect will come in. That is not the way that it goes down. And whether it had been HP Fire or Giga Drain, they both would have bounced off the Mence. But Celebi did get just that little smidge of health back. So if it survives later at 1-2%, something like that, then you know that the Giga Drain did in fact matter in that way. This might be a Pursuitar, which is awkward for Mence. If it's a Wish Mence, which it could be, but it could also just be a mixed Mence. We could see Brick Break here, Hydro Pump. If it's not Pursuitar, you still have to be afraid of Rock Slide, Ice Beam. This matchup's always so weird because they can both really threaten each other. We know the Mence is not CB at least, so pending a critical hit, T-Tar is not going to be one-hit KO'd here. and does stick it out and go for Rock Slide, connecting with Suicune for just 20%. That makes me wonder if it's a mixed tar that happens to have rock slide, because that feels like it didn't do as much as it was supposed to. But a really good double switch there for Baddummy to get the Salamence in on the Celebi. At very least, we know it is Flamethrower. But as I suspected, it is a Wishman's. I just kind of had a feeling based on how the game was going. I have no knowledge whatsoever, just to get this out there early on, of what either of these players are bringing. Neither one has shared anything whatsoever about their prep with me. I have no clue. So we'll see. It was just my feeling, given the team structure, that it's a Wishman's, and indeed, we know that it is. So Claydol comes in on Pert, not a good matchup for Doll. C with the better end here in what is still a 5-5 game. C's full team has been revealed, and we'll see how they want to proceed. You would think that there's going to be some kind of attack here. I don't see much of a reason from C's end to switch. I wonder if they opt for Ice Beam here and fish for a freeze. The obvious thing, of course, is just to click a water attack, right? I guess there's a world where you could Focus Punch thinking there'll be a switch on the other side, but I don't know. Doesn't seem that exciting to me. Like, what are you trying to hit with that Focus Punch? It's a lot better if you think that there's a Blissey or something in the back, which, I mean, I guess the last poke could be Bliss for Baddummy, but right now, even if you have Focus Punch, what's the target? What are you trying to get? Suicune, I guess, but just click Earthquake then. I think C is probably just going to click the obvious water attack here. And here comes Suicune thinking that'll be the case. And it is. So it ends up being Hydro Pump, and Suicune at just 14%. It should outspeed the Swampert here and do whatever it wants to do, whether that's a Surf, an Ice Beam. It turns out to be Rest. And in comes a Celebi that we know for a fact has Giga Drain, so obviously Baddummy has to be aware of that. He goes to Men's thinking, in fact, it might just be Giga Drain. It's not. It's Calm Mind. And the Celebi's faster, as we see, based on who takes sand damage first. Gotta be a little nerve-wracking for Salamence. Remember, it's not going to have HP flying. This is a Wishman's here. Wishman's comes in two different varieties. The traditional bulky one, which is Wish, Protect, Toxic, and either Flamethrower or Dragon Claw, based on what you need, in this case Flamethrower, or it could just be 3 attacks plus Wish on a more offensive variant. But either way, not going to have HP flying, not going to have the tools it needs to punch through Celebi here, and C gets 2 crucial CMs off here. Whether or not it's enough to punch through Bliss is a different question, but there's a lot of other bad things that can happen here. Could BP those boosts elsewhere. Could have Leech Seed, potentially. Haven't actually seen the final move. Just HP, Giga Drain, and Calm Mind. Last move could be Psychic. Could be BP. Could be Leech Seed. Did opt for a Giga Drain there. And now is going to go for a third Calm Mind. Ice Beam with the devastating crit or freeze possibility. But neither one comes. Rick may have to Soft Boiled here. Oh, especially with that crit, I hope he clicks Soft Boiled. Thunder Wave. Alright. The power is relevant there. Certainly have to Soft Boiled now. And C is going to go for Psychic. The hardest hitting move. Highest base power with the stab behind it. And he's going to get out of the way. And Soft Boiled comes down. Wow, Celebi with all those boosts. Not willing to stay in. C goes to T-Tar, and they opt for Crunch, which is going to do a big chunk to the doll. Not surprised, like I said, based on the fact that it had Rock Slide, but it did so little, it felt like it did less than it was supposed to do, that it is, in fact, some kind of mixed set. And 2 crunches later, and we are without a Claydol. The spikes did get spun away, but the Scarm is still there for SEA to reestablish later. And it certainly feels to me, too early to call it over, but it certainly feels to me like SEA in a commanding position in this game. That T-Wave does help, but it's immediately lumbaried away, and we'll see if Baddummy has the courage to go for it again, which I think I would, but we'll never know if he opted for T-Wave or Soft Boiled there. It probably was T-Wave, so that was a relevant flinch. Obviously, a crit also would have done it there, so C had a couple ways to punch through in that situation, but it mattered on that turn for sure. Had it just been a normal non-crit, non-flinch Rock Slide, and then the T-Wave comes down, the Bliss can very safely Soft Boiled up. Now you have a non-paralyzed, totally healthy T-Tar, a much lower Bliss, in a game where Baddummy is already behind. Now, it's been Baddummy's MO throughout the whole tournament to get behind and be in these positions where, all right, he's going to lose, his opponent's totally got this, and somehow Baddummy seems to come back and win anyway. It would really, how do you come back in this game? Don't you just lose to the Celebi? Isn't it over? Certainly looks over to me. I'm seeing the GGs. Remember, it's a best of 5, and this is very early, but certainly looks to me like SEA about to take game 1. Don't know what Suicune, while napping against a +1 Celebi with Giga Drain, is going to do. And the answer, of course, is nothing. And one more attack will end it. Game 1 to SEA, who is fighting out of the lower bracket, so is going to have to win 2 best of 5s. Baddummy only needs to win 1 to be our champion. And we're caught up in real time, and we wait for game 2. Like I said, a best of 5, and it will not be, the second set, if we go to it, will not occur today. So we'll either have a champion today, Baddummy, or we will have a winner-take-all set sometime soon. Probably either this coming week or this coming weekend would be my guess. So now we wait. While we discuss the stakes, I mean, they obviously, being the champ is a huge accomplishment and something to be proud of, and they care about that, but let's talk real quick about the money. I'm not going to solicit you guys at this point of the tournament for donations, but the prize pool has gotten insane. Over $3,500, which is higher than I thought we would be able to hit, even with an optimistic projection. I was hoping we could beat last year's total, 26 and change, and I thought maybe, if we get to the 26 fast enough and if enough people are engaged, maybe we can get to $3,000, and that would be phenomenal. The fact that we've somehow got over 3,500, I believe the exact total is 3,516 as of the time of this recording. That's crazy. That is almost $1,000 higher than it was last year, and that means the winner, who gets 50% of that, is going to get over $1,750. A crazy amount. $1,758 to the winner. A crazy amount for online Pokemon, but that is what they're going to be getting. And here is game 2. So Baddummy is on the bottom, which I would switch for continuity anyway. And it's going to be C on the top again. And C is going to fire away with their Swampert and Ice Beam on turn 1 into Metagross, so clearly thinking there would be a switch. And indeed, it connects with a Celebi. Gyarados comes in, and that Intimidate is going to get passed along, actually, to Aerodactyl. Still a threat with Rock Slide, but you've got to be careful because Gyarados sometimes has Thunder Wave, which would be crippling to the Aerodactyl if it were to connect. But Baddummy not comfortable with it, and we end up back on the lead matchup, the Metagross, which he led with last game as well. Probably doesn't matter, but just little note. And the Swampert on the top for SEA, who, as we know, is up a game. Here comes Intimidate with Gyarados, and it is Ice Beam again and a Freeze. Hey, hacks help. Playing for a lot of money. Luck is good. So that is not so good for Rick. Obviously has the chance to Thaw, maybe Celebi or some other poke has Heal Bell, etc. But for now, that Freeze stinks. The Ice Beam damage, not a big deal, especially in a sandless game. But the Freeze matters. Takes a chance, trying to Thaw, does not get it. Salamence in the house for SEA. Intimidate, probably not super relevant. Gyro needs to Thaw, then we'll worry about that. Hidden Power there. Pretty hefty, 42%. At first I thought maybe it is Choice Banded, but then I see that Swampert doesn't have lefties, so perhaps it is not. Perhaps this is an Endeavor Pert from Baddummy, which is pretty much the only set that I know of that I can think of that doesn't just carry leftovers. It's finals. I mean, maybe we got Wet and Wild here, and we've got some other set with like a Sub-Bataya or something, but you've got to think that it's Endeavor Pert. Stays in, goes Ice Beam. Good thing Salamence did not stay in for C's sake, and C is going to opt for Recover with their Celebi as Meta switches in. So it feels like C is a bit ahead in this game as well. Too early to make any definitive statements, but meaningful chip on a couple of Baddummy's Mons, and then of course that freeze is relevant, though it can just be undone instantly in one turn, potentially. See where they go from here. Baddummy this whole game has not liked that lead matchup, and still doesn't. However, this might be a boo-boo for C, because they're giving Baddummy an opportunity to try to thaw, but Baddummy does not take it. Going to switch back to meta, and going to exchange an EQ and a mash respectively. Heavy damage from both, but Salamence, of course, is faster. EQ again as Gyra comes in a still sandless game, gets lefties back. Maybe now Baddummy will take the opportunity to thaw. Goes to meta, just in case C had gone for Rock Slide, but we end up on this lead matchup yet again. And finally C does something other than Ice Beam. This time it is Earthquake, just in case the meta had gotten cute and stayed in, anticipating Ice Beam. Psychic there, protected against, no problem. Cell will be happy to gain the lefties. And here comes Psychic number 2. Once again, not a problem. Cell will be happy to get the lefties. Two onions staring down each other. Sandless game, meta in. SD, well, that tells you a lot. So C is going to have a Magneton in the back, surely. And then the last poke could be something like Lax, could be something like Metagross, could be something like Titar, but it's going to be Magneton plus one other. And obviously that SD is meant to be passed. It could be like SD 2 attacks recover, SD 3 attacks, what have you, but let's be real. Gonna have Baton pass with it. And it goes to Magneton, which is immediately sniped out by Earthquake. Seems like C overthought that. I don't know that Magneton was the ideal target there, but wow. He compliments, yeah. C's going to compliment their opponent there as well. Well played, says C. Baddummy hasn't said anything other than the initial good luck all set, but yeah, that's going to prompt some timers. C was not expecting that, clearly. And that could be a big turning point in this game. C had an opportunity there to pass the SD from their Celebi to anything on the team. And obviously, in hindsight, they wish they had passed to Salamence or really just about anything other than Magneton. Because EQ there, I mean, it would have hit the pert for more than nothing. But by far, Magneton is the worst outcome if the opponent's clicking EQ. That really changes things. That I don't think Baddummy has a Skarmory in the back, so it doesn't free a Skarm that I don't think is there. But still, that could have been devastating had C gone off with the BP pass and just started shredding through things. Major, major tempo loss on that one when Rick made that call or when C made that blunder, however you want to look at it. So the outcome of this one, much less clear now, and a lot of things have managed to lefty up. It is the last poke meta on C's team, as predicted. Makes sense for them. And still two in the back that we don't know for Rick, though we could probably make some deductions. And in fact, Rick also probably has a Magneton somewhere, given the rest of the team. Alright, there you go. Endeavorpert eating its Salac Berry. Do you click Hydro with Torrent range here? Nope, going to go for Endeavor itself. However, Agility is going to make C's Metagross faster than Swampert, despite the fact that it ate that Salac Berry. Weird position now for Baddummy. Going to go to the Gyra. And there is the Mash, which, in my opinion, the Steel Mash should smash the block of ice, and Gyra shouldn't be frozen anymore. But alas, not how it works. Mash misses, and the Thaw. That was huge. That was huge. Massive turning point in this game. Baddummy certainly looking now like he's in good shape to win game 2 and tie us up at 1 a pop. The miss and the Thaw both at the perfect time, especially after Mash got an attack raise. Devastating turn. The follow-up Mash probably kills the Gyra there. I think it actually always kills the Gyra there. But the miss and the Thaw both at the perfect time. Meta there is going to do pretty serious damage. I don't know that it sweeps the game, but it does massive, massive damage if it doesn't outright win. So that was a massive miss and thaw. And there is a Magneton in the back, as I expected for Rick. It just makes sense, given the rest of the team. Substitute coming down, however, for SCA, which is very common on these kind of teams, because you give it the SD pass, it's already faster than everything, it subs down to Leechy, and you end up with a +3 Aerodactyl that is not locked on a move the way that it would be with Choice Band, and it just tears through the team. Right now, this is an unboosted arrow, and it might not have HP flying. It does not seem to. Usually the set is Rock Slide, Earthquake, Double Edge. So Celebi does have a chance here if it can avoid Rock Slide, crits, and flinches and all that. I'm surprised that C didn't go for it there. I don't think I like that pullback. If I were C, I always would have clicked Rock Slide there. But C is going to opt for a more disciplined approach, and perhaps they will be rewarded for it. SD floating, yet another chance to potentially pass that. But Meta coming in, obviously threatening Boom, which is the clear response, so the Celebi doesn't go wild. Shadow Ball short, and it is not a Boom. Doesn't mean he doesn't have it, simply means he didn't pull the trigger there. And that certainly doesn't mean that he won't pull the trigger now. Not in danger. Shadow Ball crit wouldn't even necessarily kill. It would need a really good roll to do so. Got to be very careful about letting it pass, though. Now, granted, neither the Salamence nor the arrow can come in to a Meteor Mash. But the Swampert at 100% can. It's a weird situation. SEA doesn't actually want to pass because, like I said, they only have one thing, the Swampert, that can come in on a Meteor Mash. Shadow Ball 27%, and it is another mash and an attack raise, so Celebi will absolutely die to another mash if it stays in a take one. And it will never kill the Metagross here without a critical hit. What is the play here if you are SEA? Do you finally pass? Do you just attack and take what is basically a trade? Gonna pass it now. Gonna be to the Swampert. And it is the mash. And an attack raise. So the great question, of course, is who is faster here. And unsurprisingly, based on the lefties, we see that it is the meta. So they're both at +2 attack. One of them did it their own way. One of them with the assistance of a teammate. But they're both at +2. And Baddummy is not comfortable with it, despite being faster. Switches to Gyre there. A little bit conservative. A lot of the time, people would have stayed in there and clicked Earthquake, but either playing scared or calced it and thought that he wouldn't kill. Kind of surprised he didn't go for it there. DD Mence for C, trying to put them up 2-0. Will not kill the T-Tar here without a critical hit or Brick Break. Neither of which occur. Devastating chunk from +1 Earthquake, but it survives, and the Rock Slide kills and makes this a 6-3 game. Now it's going to fall on Aerodactyl to try to close this out. If you're Baddummy, I think you're obligated to stay in here and Rock Slide. Do not want to let that Aerodactyl get behind a sub. That is the best way to lose, by switching on a sub and letting it go wild. Have to stay in and Rock Slide, in my opinion. I agree with that play for Baddummy. I think now you go Gyarados and Intimidate, and then you go from there. But you certainly want to get the Intimidate off as well before it gets behind a sub and starts doing its shenanigans. Not sure what else he could go to. Meta, I mean, we know it as Earthquake, but it's an unboosted Earthquake. We'd have to calc how likely it is to live. Celebi at 65, I guess, is an option. C didn't like it before, maybe he doesn't like it now. Magneton would die to the Earthquake even though it's unboosted. Swampert's at just 14%. If I were playing, I would go to the Gyarados. And then possibly switch right out, but I would start with the Gyarados and get the very relevant Intimidate off if I were Baddummy. I believe Baddummy's worried with the Gyarados about if it is a set like, say, Dragon Dance HP Flying Earthquake Taunt, or instead of Taunt, it's Double Edge. I think he's worried that he can't actually pop the sub from the Aerodactyl, and that you might get set up on anyway, even if you get the Intimidate off. Okay, I didn't know if that was going to be meta and then go to Gyra for Intimidate, or just meta Stick It Out. And it ends up being meta Stick It Out. So Meteor Mash there, obviously, aimed at the Aerodactyl, hits the Swampert instead, 17% with the resistance. This is closer than it looks. It feels like Baddummy's been ahead for most of the game. I don't want to say all game, because at first it didn't look very good with that freeze and all, but Baddummy's been ahead for a while after a couple crucial turns for C, particularly the Miss and Thaw turn. But this is closer than it looks, because a lot of Baddummy's stuff is kind of beat up, and that Aerodactyl absolutely is a threat. If it can just sub down to Lychee, it could clean the game. It really could. From the current health of a lot of the pokes, it can one-hit KO a lot of the team. Might be one blunder, one crit, one flinch, what have you, away from Aerodactyl victory and a 2-0 C lead, rather than a 1-1 tie. And some timer being used, which I'm glad to see. The first game, like I said, blood flowing, adrenaline going. Both of them go, 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 foot on the gas. But we have slowed down for this one, and I don't blame them. I don't blame either of them. There's a lot of money on the line, $17.58 for the winner as of now. Now, granted, 30% of the prize pool, still really good. $900+ for second place, but there's a big difference between $900 and $1,700. Wow, Toxic misses. There's been a couple of crucial turns here. Been some meaningful hacks both ways in this one. The freeze initially, the miss thaw, that Toxic matters. There's been some nonsense both ways. It's just one of those games. So the Magneton is lost basically for free for Baddummy. And that leaves us in a 4-3 game state. Psychic there protected against. And there is Giga Drain trying to induce the Swampert to stay in. But C knew that that was there from before. It had already been used on the Aerodactyl. So no way Jose letting that happen. And in fact the Celebi switch came down. Meta comes in on Recover. Both of them relatively healthy for this stage of the game. 79 and 65%. BP, almost certainly to Swampert. Not going to come in with the arrow on the mash. It would just kill it. That would be silly. And it is the Swampert. Comes into just a 19% mash. Unexciting. And Gyra comes in. Blanking Earthquake and getting an Intimidate off. There is Sand now, finally. So these non-Sand immune pokes do not get lefties anymore. Definitely matters. Ice Beam there, just 8%. Who cares? The devastating thing there would have been the freeze, of course, but the damage is whatever. And we've got a little pause again. It's tough. I'm not sure who's winning this game. It could still go either way. It really can. Ice Beam fishing for a freeze on Gyra yet again. Doesn't happen, but still can. The Gyra is actually a defensive wall, and the Intimidate is actually pretty relevant in this matchup. But I don't think it's much of an offensive threat. I don't think it's going to get a lot done if it is just a DD set. Which we don't know. We haven't seen anything but Earthquake. But assuming it's just standard DD, Earthquake, HP Flying, and one other move, whether that other move is Thunder Wave, Taunt, Double Edge, whatever it is, I don't think the Gyarados is really going to be much of an offensive threat or really have much of a chance to get anything going here. That's a good switch for Baddummy. The only way this works out for C is if they decide they want to fish for Meteor Mash misses and just click sub a couple times here. If they do find a miss, then that's really good, but that's probably a more later in the game, I'm out of options, desperate time, desperate measures kind of thing. And yeah, you just fish for a miss and you just get there. Critical hit there. Gyarados will survive, but one hit from death now from just about anything. We've got a tight late game here. Pressure probably more on Baddummy with C having the 1-game lead. Now, granted, Baddummy has an entire match lead, but that's really not the way to think about it. That's really not the mindset to have. Oh, I've got a match to give. Let's just fuck off in the first one, and then we'll be even, and then I'll try real hard from there. Obviously, you want to close it out the first time if you have that opportunity. There's been a bunch of switching, but very little proactive play from Baddummy. I'm not sure how he sees himself winning this game. C has been proactive. C's been pushing the issue. But I'm not sure how Baddummy envisions himself winning this game. Trading Earthquakes is probably not the way that he envisions himself winning this game. This really illustrates how important that Toxic Miss was. Completely different dynamic here. The meta would be a huge issue for C had the Toxic connected on Pert. But here we are in this timeline where it did not connect, and outcome much less clear. Ice Beam there with a crit or a freeze opportunity would have been devastating to the B. Neither one comes down. We know he's got Giga Drain. The other Celebi has consistently been able to switch into Baddummy Celebi, and he hasn't been able to do much about that. He goes to meta anticipating Celebi, which is what C does. But Baddummy hasn't really been able to get anywhere with meta either. Maybe he doubles back to Celebi here, thinking that Swampert is going to come in. BP, so something is going to have to eat a mash, but it misses. But Swampert would have taken it just fine. It would have done like 20 there. Did 19 last time. If Baddummy is to win, he's going to have to land a boom at some point. I don't see any other way out of this game. He does blank Earthquake and get Intimidate off, but doesn't really change anything here. He would just die to Ice Beam if he were to stay in. I guess it's possible that C switches here, and Baddummy DDs or T-Waves or something on a switch. That's exactly what he goes for. Tries to DD on a switch. C is going to actually click Earthquake. So it is a free +1 attack incoming with an opportunity to crit. C, of course, is not going to give him another chance to do that. So Ice Beam is clicked, Gyarados is down, and really the damage on the Swampert, not a huge deal. But what this does do is allow the Endeavor Pert in, and indeed, it's going to start, well, endeavoring. Celebi down to just 12% in what is now a 3-3 game. What used to be a 6-3 game for Baddummy has gotten very, very close. This may end up being the closest game of the set. It's just game 2 out of potentially 5, so I'm not ready to call that definitively, but this could end up being the closest game of the set. It is certainly closer than game 1. Got ourselves a nail-biter here with a tight late game. And Celebi is going to hang on barely. It's in the red at just 13%. Protect and Calm Mind. That could matter. That could matter. Now there's opportunities to crit through the other B potentially. For example, a Psychic here, crit and good damage roll could actually kill the other Celebi. Crit there would have done it. But it does not come, and now C might be out of the woods. I think C is going to clutch this out and get the 2-0 lead. Shadow Ball would have killed the other B. Mediocre 13% on meta. How does Baddummy get through the Swampert? Does he even have Boom? He's shown only Mash and EQ this entire time. What are the last two moves? Certainly if it were like Protect Toxic or something, you would have clicked Toxic a long time ago. Could be a Jill or Rock Slide, which is the worst case here. Really needs Boom to get through the Swampert, but at this point, that wouldn't win because he would just get cleaned up by the arrow. So I don't know how Baddummy gets out of this game. Celebi's down. Just 2 pokes for Baddummy. Prediction with Swampert, perhaps. Freeze the Celebi or something. Protect and Surf, sure. Baddummy trying everything he can to tie this up. But it's looking like C is going to take a 2-0 lead. Endeavor there, exact same as before, but we know that Celebi has Recover. And Ice Beam there is going to need a crit or a freeze. Does not find it. Here comes Meta, anticipating an attack. But it's just recover again. It's the same problem. How do you get through Swampert? Does Baddummy double back? No, just gonna mash again. Attack raise there makes it vaguely interesting. Crit EQ or something, maybe? But Baddummy doesn't have any switches anymore. He either has to stay in and take a super effective Earthquake, or he's got to go to his Swampert, which would insta-die to any attack from the other Swampert. Protect comes down for C. Out of options. Baddummy has got to get there, whether it's another raise or a crit or what have you. Attacks on the Protect turn, which certainly indicates that he does not have agility. Couldn't definitively rule it out here, but has not played like he has either Toxic or Agility. It might be as simple as just a 4-attack meta here. Might just be Rock Slide and Boom as the final 2 moves. C thinking it over. I believe C is in good shape to take a 2-0 lead here. Earthquake crit would have killed. The Earthquake Bat does 52, leaving meta at 53. So this is actually advantageous for Baddummy. The attack raise that he got was very, very relevant. If not for the immediate raise, this wouldn't even be a decision. But now, very awkward. The last Earthquake did 38. What is he at? 38. Gonna be really close. Doesn't have the balls to go for Meteor Mash on the switch. Hard play to make. Earthquake there, mediocre on the B. But the follow-up mash is not mediocre at all. It's an instant KO. Leaves Metagross at 58. The last Earthquake did 52. In theory, the meta is safe here. However, if the Swampert gets an Earthquake off, the Aerodactyl should be able to clean up the game. That is the problem. Gonna go for a flinch. Does not get it and is killed by a crit. That is anticlimactic, and that is going to be a 2-0 series lead for C. Gonna go for the outspeed. Gonna go for the double edge. That is that. Close late game. Wasn't sure until the very end. But like I said 40-something turns ago, very likely that the Aerodactyl can just clean up this game. Was just 1 or 2 small things away from cleaning up the game. And indeed, that is what happened. Baddummy's team, I mean, I don't know that it's weak to it as a whole. Maybe it's a little bit arrow weak, but in its current game state, was very vulnerable to the Aerodactyl. Was just 1 or 2 minor things away from the Aerodactyl cleaning up. And that is the way that it ends all these turns, dozens of turns later. So C with a 2-0 lead in this best of 5. I reiterate once again that if C is to win this set, whether it's next game, Game 4, or Game 5, it doesn't matter. If C wins the set, then there's going to be an entirely different clean slate best of 5, and it will not be today. If Baddummy manages to bring this back, then he is the champion of CALLOUS Invitational 7, and that's that. Now, be aware, for those of you, I know I have a mixed audience at this point. Some of you have been watching this tournament since the very beginning. Others, maybe this is even your first CALLOUS Invitational. So, just for history, for those, some of you already know this, but back sweeps in the CI finals, it's happened before. CALLOUS Invitational 2, all those years ago. The Linear Curve, who is the most successful player in CALLOUS Invitational history, he won 2 of these events, and he got second place in, well, CALLOUS Invitational 2, which I'm telling you about. He had a 2-0 lead in the final set of the Grand Finals and was back-swept by eventual champion Cowboy Dan. Up 2-0, lost 2-3. If not for that historic moment, it would have been 3 out of 4 CALLOUS Invitational victories for the Linear Curve, which was just vomit-inducing levels of dominance. But, I mean, as it is, with 2 victories and 1 second-place finish, Linear is the most successful player in CALLOUS Invitational history. But the point of that is, back sweeps can happen. And I would not count Rick out here. Even if Rick loses this set, he gets another chance. But obviously, C arguably the most creative player this whole damn tournament. Gotta love their position with a 2-0 lead. So we wait. I don't blame them whatsoever for taking some time in between games, given the stakes. Like I said, $1,758 to the winner, and $900 and change to second place. Both wonderful paydays, but one of these things is not like the other. And here we go, Game 3, SEA, Super Epic Ampharos, with the 2-0 lead. They both have Zapdos, they both have Thunderbolt. Baddummy's on the bottom again. He's in the upper bracket. SEA in the lower bracket on the top. This time, SEA does not like the matchup. It makes sense since Baddummy seemingly has the faster Zapdos here. And it is just Thunderbolt again. T-Tar switches in, and it's a Calm Mind. I thought that might be a Leech Seed, but Calm Mind works, makes it a little bit scary. And we've got more Baton Pass shenanigans. That was an HP Bug directed at Celebi. Instead, finds itself a Swampert on the other end, and very early on in this game, just 5 turns, kind of already feels like Baddummy's not in great shape. C has been so proactive in this set as a whole, has just brought offense in some form every time, and really taken it to Baddummy, and clearly this is working. So already, I feel, just half a dozen turns in, like C is in reasonable shape. This is a weird spot for Bliss. You don't even necessarily beat it if it's just Special Swampert, and that is to say nothing of the fact that it could have Focus Punch if you try to Soft Boiled or Toxic or whatever you're planning to do. So C is really looking to be dominant and send us to another set. I'm very surprised that C switched out there. It's got to be a straight Special Pert or something. It obviously doesn't have Focus Punch. There's no way you switch there. And I can't believe Gengar switched in either. How is that the play for Baddummy? What if it's just a Hydro Pump again? The only thing I can think of for Baddummy is that he did that scouting for Focus Punch, but Gengar, a weird switch. If C had just clicked Hydro Pump again, Gengar is no more. Weird sequence for sure, but a Burn gets off on meta, and then Psychic comes down for devastating 3-force damage on the Gengar. And now Cloyster comes in to only be immediately Thunder Punched. Fair enough. C has been really taking it to Rick. Not afraid at all. Lower bracket, schmower bracket. Who gives a fuck? I am going to go aggro, and I am going to stick it down your throat. C is playing very aggressively and proactively. And like I said, it's working. Boom there. I mean, it's that or a second spike, so might as well get some chip. I mean, this does set up this sequence where if the meta were to stay, it would die to Thunderbolt. Celebi could come back in. We don't actually know if Zapdos has a hidden power at all. Grass being more common than Ice, but that's not to dismiss the possibility of Ice. And C's going to let it go. So it leaves us in a 5-5 situation. Some chip on quite a few things. Gengar, a little bit, 1 foot in the grave. Blissey, moderately okay, but got to be careful, especially with mixed threats potentially on the other side. Both Zapdoses took T-Bolts. Yeah, that's where we are. Here comes Gengar, which we hadn't seen all series, and now both players have one, and that is a Focus Punch. Blissey survives the punch, but not the follow-up sand. Down she goes, and C retakes the lead. And there's an Ice Punch. This might be a quickie. All right, Baddummy down to 3 pokes, just 14 turns in. And Giga Drain, exactly what he doesn't want to see. Can he get a Desperation Freeze? That would be a no. And this set might be done. This might be a 3-0 sweep for C and give Baddummy something to think about going into the second set. Protect. Why not? But gonna have to protect 6 more times in a row to run out all those Giga Drains. I wish you luck in that endeavor. I think we're already on DD Tar or Bust. Gengar comes in on Focus Punch, was trying to come in on Boom, but C played that correctly because C knows the only thing that can beat them from this position is letting the T-Tar DD up. This looks very, very over. Giga Drain Rock Slide, sure. This looks super duper duper over to me. There's your DD and there's the GGs. Gengar faster here? Yup. This one was a stomp. Last year, CI Finals, it was kind of similar. Solwyn kicked the crap out of H-Clat in the initial set. And just for style points, there's a Rapidash, because why not? But the fact that Solwyn kicked the crap out of H-Clat in the initial set, it didn't matter, because in the second set, it was completely different. H-Clat came back, and I believe swept Solwyn 3-0. So the point is what happened in this set, and don't get me wrong, it was a beating, but what happened in this set is not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen in the second set. But there will most certainly be a second set because this one was all SEA. The bracket has reset, and there will be one more best of 5 to take place. Like I said, probably this coming week or this coming weekend. I'll let you guys know. But there will be one more set, and it will be winner take all for the championship of CALLOUS Invitational 7. The last CI match ever is going to be coming up next. But in the meantime, rate, comment, subscribe. Great job, C. 3-0 sweep over Baddummy. One champion will be crowned in the next best of 5. I will see you guys there.